Welcome to a new series on the Incarceration podcast, Prison Meals. A lot of y'all have been asking me to start showing and sharing prison recipes, so that's what we're doing today. And today we're starting with the most classic, infamous prison meal, the brick. What's good, man? It's your boy E.I. the King, and this is the Incarceration podcast, where I talk about prison, pre, post, and present, how everything that I experienced throughout my incarceration has forever changed my life. This is the Incarceration.
All right, good afternoon. This is State of Florida versus Stephen Testo with multiple cases before the court.
Forever Convict family, listen, we are on a journey to 50,000 subs. We are over halfway there. So if you have not yet subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Share this channel with anybody who enjoys prison content. And if you don't know my story, I've done over 12 years in prison. And all throughout my incarceration on this channel, I share the crazy, funny, goofy, weird prison stories, as well as interviewing other convicts and sharing their stories as well. But most importantly, we highlight the redemptive stories of convicts coming home, leaving their past lifestyle of crime, and now living successfully in society. And of course, the ingredients. You know, the number one ingredient for pretty much 95% of all prison meals is ramen. So number one, we got our ramen noodle soup. We got our bag of Cheetos. And because I went to the gas station right down the street, they didn't have hot Cheetos, which is normally the go-to chip to make a brick. But today we got cheddar jalapeno Cheetos. We got a pickle sausage, Tijuana Mama. And of course, we got a seasoning pack that comes within the ramen noodle itself. So step one, you get the soup. And if you done time, you already know step number one is what? Busting down the soup. Slam it on the floor a couple times. Gotta be careful. I mean, really it doesn't bust all the way open, but you give it about 3 or 4 slams on the ground, not too hard so the whole bag don't bust open. And then you want to check the bag, make sure that you don't open it up on the side that has any holes in it. Sometimes these ramen noodle soups, and especially in prison being housed in canteen, can get damaged. This one looks good. We're gonna open it up right here. So now we got the soup, we got the chip, we got the pickle sausage, we got the seasoning, we got the hot water. So we take our bag of Cheetos. You want to open up a little bit at the top, which I already did to get the air out. And then you don't leave the chips whole. You bust them up as fine as possible. You want to be careful that you don't bust open the bottom of the bag because we're going to need that. So bust down all the chips like this. And this is what is going to lock the brick together and really flavor the brick as well. So bust it down pretty good already. And then sometimes you can do this. You bust down the chip. Pretty good. Open it up. Then we take the ramen. It's already bust up. We dump it in the chip bag like this. So dump the ramen all the way in the chip bag. And then you want to mix this up so that way the soup's not sitting on top and the chips are just on the bottom. You want to equally distribute the chips all throughout the soup because the chips is what locks the soup together and what forms the brick. And you'll see why it's called a brick here shortly. Some people with the pickle sausage, what they do, which I'll do, is, oops, there's some juice in there. They take the half of the pickle sausage and they put half of it in. Ew, this juice is getting everywhere. They put some of it in here and then the rest will cut up in the button on the top. So we're gonna do half and half. So bear with me of being nasty, but oh well. Because when you're in prison, look, me being a slob. You're in prison, you don't care or don't feel like taking the time to cuddle up. That's what I did, you know what I mean? Excuse me for being nasty. Obviously, I'm not sharing this brick with anybody. So, whatever. That's a good reason not to share your food in prison. Sorry, bro, I can't bust it down. I didn't use a knife. I was biting up the sausage with my teeth. I already know y'all gonna light up the comments right here, but it's whatever. All right. All right, sorry about that. You unashamed about all that time you did? Go ahead and grab your Forever Convict tee, where we're unashamed to share how our incarceration is what God chose to use to radically transform our life. And even though society may deem us as convicts, I'm not ashamed of what God used throughout that season of incarceration to make me to be the man who I am today. Forever Convict. Mix it up again. So now the pickled sausage is getting distributed throughout everything. Then we take our hot water. This is key. You don't want to put too much water in the chip bag because you'll make your brick super soggy. Do a little bit at a time. Now remember, the hot water doesn't only cook the brick, but it turns it into the brick. Gets it soggy so it can cook, and it's what forms the chips and the soup together into a brick. Then you want to take the corners of the bag, push it up, so that way you're making sure you're mixing it all around. Put a little bit more water in there. Not too much. Especially when you get the top down in there, so that way if there's parts that don't get mixed around, it'll be uncooked and it'll taste like the soup, real crunchy in the brick. You don't want that. It's kind of weird. Gotta keep mixing it up. Keep mixing it up. I probably should have busted down the chips a lot more to make them finer, but I didn't feel like doing it. You know what I mean? It's all right. Keep mixing it up, making it mix all the way through. A little bit more. All right. May have put a little bit too much water in there, but it's all right. Just gotta let it sit for a little bit longer, so that way the soup will absorb all the water, it'll blow up. All right, so now we got our mush in the bag. I don't know if you can see it. Super mushy. That's kind of the whole point of it. You know, so it can turn into a brick. All right, then after you mix it all the way up, remember, keep pushing the corners of the bags in so it don't get stuck in the corner. What you do, you fold it over something like this. Boom. If you got like your ID card in prison, you can use your clip, paper clip, whatever. And then you start pressing it down. And this is what's gonna give you the shape, and this is why it's called a brick. Now in prison, you can put this in an oven. And what they mean by an oven is you could just take your jacket or a shirt and fold it up in there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take, I also have a fire HBO style series chronologically going over my prison experience from day one, all throughout my 12 years in prison. But you got to become a member to this channel. If you're on desktop, that's the only way you can do it. If you're on a mobile phone, you got to do it through Safari, or you got to go to your internet app and become a member. Check out a brief clip right here. It's not directly addressing me. It's not directly addressing anybody. He's just saying it loudly about all the new people. And we weren't the only new people who came in that day. There's people who came in before us. But I'm thinking still he's gonna be the one that tries me. So he goes and he sits down, and I'm sitting on the bench, and all of a sudden someone approaches me. I'm sitting on the outside of the bench and someone stands right over me. These pajama jeans. And we're just gonna use this as our oven. Like this. Boom. Boom. So that way it keeps all the heat in. Cooks a little bit faster. Boom. Just let it sit for a couple minutes. All right, so just a quick inside look of my prison experience when it comes to cooking. Like I mentioned, if you don't know, who I am, or if you're new to the channel, my name's E.I. the King, and this is the Incarceration Podcast, where I talk about prison, pre, post, and present, how everything that I experienced throughout my incarceration has forever changed my life, right? So on this channel, I talk about crazy prison stories, funny, goofy, weird, all my prison experiences, and we interview other people as well. But most importantly, we highlight the redemptive stories of convicts coming home, just leaving their past lifestyle of crime, now living successfully in society. And obviously here today is the first prison recipe, prison meal. So today we're cooking the classic brick, but it's looking into my prison experience. One thing that I did not enjoy throughout my prison bit, of course, all of it, no one likes to be locked up, is I personally hated cooking. I guess whenever I first went to prison, I guess it's kind of like a new experience and it's kind of fun or whatever. But after doing years and years and years in prison, I began to despise it, just like you begin to despise everything about prison. But everyone does time differently. I know a lot of people that's how they do time. They like cooking. It's fun for them. It's time consuming and they get real intricate and detailed. Not me. I like to, work out or, do ministry or, just read or whatever. I just use my time to do my time differently. But some people, that's their thing. They like to cook. And I even know some people, man, like they're so fire at prison recipes, like my homeboy Kiev, he used to make these crazy cakes, all different types of flavors and recipes, and literally he had like a whole menu, and that was his hustle. What he would do is he'd have people go to the canteen, buy him what he needed to make it, whatever they wanted. So they paid for, all the supply, and they'd also pay him on top of that, like $5, a couple dollars, whatever, to make it. But he really enjoyed it and he loved it. But for me, I know all the prison recipes and I'm gonna show y'all, but I didn't enjoy it. You know what I mean? So I would like normally just eat food that I barely ever made bricks when I first fell. That's just like a classic meal, nostalgic. But to me, I normally ate soup sandwiches just because it's super easy just to open up a soup, pour water in it, let it sit for a couple seconds, pour it out, let the steam cook it, and then when it's done cooking, open it up, have your refried beans cooking on the side, put some refried beans in it, tuna, whatever, boom, close it, cheese squeeze, mayo, ketchup, whatever, mustard, and bust down. Number one, high in protein. It was just super easy, quick to make. Just put water in it, let it sit, come back to it whenever it's done cooking, and get ready to eat. So yeah, that's just me being honest. I never really enjoyed cooking in prison, nor out here in society. That's just not something that I'm too fond of. But yeah, that's that. So even though we should probably let it sit for a couple more minutes, man, for the sake of the video, y'all ain't gonna be tasting it. My main concern is that it absorbs all the water, which it kind of feels like it hasn't. But even if it's a little mushy, it's all good. Y'all get the point. So. Actually, it's a little too mushy, but a little too much water in it, like I suspected. So I'm gonna let it sit for a couple minutes. Turn the camera off, let it sit so y'all ain't here sitting, and we'll be back in a second, man. All right. So as I stated earlier, you do not want to put too much water in the brick, and that's what I did. That's why it took forever to cook. I let it sit for about 10 minutes so the soup and the chip could fully absorb the water and not be overly mushy. But we're gonna go ahead and take the brick out of the oven and check it out and see how it tastes. But before we taste it, we're gonna show y'all first. So still kind of mushy. The less water, the more hard the brick will be. You want to bust down the bag from the middle. You can rip it. Bam. Pull it all the way down. And this is why it's called a brick. because it forms into a brick. Once again, I put way too much water in it, so that's why it's not as hard as it should or could be. So this is the brick right here. I don't want it to break apart. That's it right there. And if you see it falling apart, it's because there's too much water. It didn't, allow the brick to lock up as good as it should have. But I'm gonna show y'all. So this is the close-up. And if you see like the spaces, the holes, it's because two things. One, I put way too much water in it. Two, I didn't crush up the chips enough. But you see the form, what it looks like, and why it's called a brick. All right, so lastly, we're gonna go ahead and put our condiments on the brick. Now in prison, obviously you don't get a real knife. You get plastic knives. Normally you gotta get it from the police or like take it out. People be getting them out the garbage because they really don't even sell plastic knives, but they're on the pound. Though the police will confiscate them, when they do shakedowns. But for the most part, bro, everybody's got a plastic knife. So put the condiments on it. I like mine. And once again, man, all the prison meals that I'm going to be doing, I'm only using prison recipes. So that way we're making it as chain gang as possible. So we put the mayo on it. Go ahead and put some mustard on it. And some ketchup. Now I want to show y'all something real quick. In prison, the classic knife, if you can't get your hands on a plastic knife, everyone uses their state prison ID, to cut up the sausages and to use it to cut things, honey buns and all that. But because my prison ID is nostalgic, and obviously I keep it for the podcast and everything, and it's super flimsy, it's kind of, beat down from the sun, the years in the sun. And I went through plenty of them, but this is my last one I was released with. I don't want to use it, so I'm just gonna go ahead and use the knife and put the rest of the pickled sausage on top, rather than using my teeth as earlier. Kind of put it on top of the brick like some pepperonis. And show y'all the finished product, man. And we're gonna try it, man. See how it tastes. Honestly, I feel like it's gonna be trash because I don't enjoy prison food anymore. But I'm sure it tastes all right. Let me give y'all one last look at this before I bust down. And this is the finished product. This is your classic chain gang brick. Look pretty good, huh? So let's go ahead and bust down, bro. And obviously in prison, they don't give you real silverware. But once again, most people got plastic forks, and they definitely sell spoons on Canteen. So let's go ahead and bust down, man. So honestly, pretty good. It's the first time I had a brick since I've been out. It's sad that I'm enjoying this. It's actually fire. I ain't gonna cap. And if you see it falling apart, once again, it's because I didn't bust up the chips fine enough. And I put too much water in it, but hey, it's all right. I don't feel like letting it cook forever. Got stuff I gotta do. So, man, y'all stay tuned. The Incarceration podcast, and primarily on this playlist, is gonna be prison meals. And our first recipe for the prison meal playlist is the classic brick. Y'all stay tuned, man. It's your boy E.I. the King, and this is the Incarceration Podcast. And this specifically, prison meals. If you didn't know, I am a rapper. My artist name is E.I. the King. Check out my music on all streaming platforms. Go to my other YouTube channel, E.I. the King. Check out my music videos. And I'm also releasing a documentary all year. It's really a docu-series. And every Wednesday, I drop a new video. As we've been documenting my transition home from prison and society, from the day of my release, we had a film crew at the gate just documenting my transition home from prison, now in society. Check it out on one of these links above.